Guys, I wanted to be here on the screen with you at this time because in example 3 of lesson 5, we are figuring out how to do square roots and cube roots of numbers that are not perfect squares and not perfect cubes. So what's the most important thing that we have to know? The most important thing we got to know is that if we are squaring something, we have two answers, positive and negative. If we are cubing something, we only have one answer, and that answer is positive. If you did not write that down in your notes yet, you need to make sure you write that down in a book. Write it down in your notebook. Write it down in your book that you have at home. Someplace you need to write that down because these are the important things. I'm going to stress that a lot. If it's important, I'm going to tell you over and over about it because you're going to hear over and over more and more throughout the school year. So here on the screen, we have x squared equals 50. And if we do x squared equals 50, if I take out my calculator and I do the square root of 50, notice that the square root of 50 is an irrational number. And the reason that it is an irrational number is because it's not a perfect square. If I have 50 squares, I cannot make one nice perfect square out of 50 pieces. So in this case, we don't have to necessarily write our irrational number, which was on the calculator of 7.0710. You do not have to write all this. All this indicates to us is that this number is an irrational number. And we don't want to sit here and write this because we can. It's infinite. Remember, it goes on forever. It's non-terminating, non-repeating. So watch how we can write this instead. When we write this, we can get the square root of both sides. So the square root of x squared is just simply equal to x, and the square root of 50 is the positive or negative square root of 50. We don't have to write down this calculator number. All we need to write down is the positive or negative square root of 50. Okay. Now, what's so important about that is that, as you can see down here, there are two possible solutions. X could be the positive square root of 50 and the negative square root of 50. What's important about that is that your brain knows that if we have the square of something, or the square root of something, we have two answers, positive and negative. Here we go again. I'm stressing it again. Make sure you know what the answer is. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. This is a cube root of 37. What is x cubed equals 37? So we have to find the cube root. Now, remember, yes, again, we can jump on the calculator and we can just say, what is the cube root of 37? If you've paid attention, you'll know that, again, the cube root of 37 is irrational. We do not have a perfect cube. It cannot make a perfect cube out of 37 small cubes. So therefore, we get 3.32221852, and it goes on and on and on forever because it's non-terminating, non-repeating, and it's an irrational number. Okay. However, if you remembered that you can only have a positive answer to something that is cubed, then you'll get this correct. So when we write this one, we write the cube root of x cubed, and we write the cube root of 37, and we just get an answer of x because these two inverses cancel out, and this will equal x equals the cube root of 37. We don't have to write the irrational number. All we have to write is the cube root of 37. Now, here's why I can write the cube root of 37. If I know my perfect cubes, I know that the cube root of 27 is 3 and the cube root of 64 is 4. So I know that this answer is somewhere between the number 3 and the number 4. And we'll get into that more as we move throughout the school year. Right now, just make sure that you know that square roots and squares will have two answers, positive and negative. Cube roots only have one answer. Seems weird because squares are 2 and cubes are 3, and everybody thinks, well, if it has a 3 answer, it's got to be positive and negative, both. No, it's squares have positive, negative, cubes have only positive. And the last part of this example is just saying to solve these ones. And again, if I solve a cubed equals 11, 11 is not a perfect cube, so therefore all we have to write is the cube root of 11. That would be my answer. I don't have to write the irrational number. And c squared equals 27. Well, c squared equals 27 just means that there is a positive or negative square root of 27. Because the square root of 27 is irrational, I don't have to write all those numbers. All I have to write is the positive or negative square root of 27.